we have more nuclear weapons than anybody. We don't do testing. We've halted it many years ago. But with others doing testing, I think it's appropriate that we do also.
US President Donald Trump's surprise announcement to resume nuclear testing has sparked fears, confusion, and warnings from around the world. His announcement, made on Truth Social just hours before a meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in Busan, signals a seismic recalibration of Washington's nuclear doctrine. Donald Trump said that this would be on equal basis with Russia and China, asserting that the United States cannot afford to fall behind in strategic capability. From onboard Air Force One, Donald Trump appended more than 3 decades of restraint on nuclear policy. But he said that nuclear test sites would be determined later. What also was not clear is that if Donald Trump meant a nuclear weapons test or a test of a nuclear-capable weapons system. Even his advisors seemed blindsided. Vice Admiral Richard Correll, Trump's nominee to lead the military command in charge of this nuclear arsenal, was pressed by US senators at his confirmation hearing to try and interpret the president's comments. But he didn't seem to know the details himself. Trump's decision to restart nuclear weapons testing follows a rapid expansion by China of its nuclear stockpile in the recent years. According to a Pentagon report, Beijing could have 1,000 nuclear warheads by the end of the decade. China has constructed at least 3 complexes for launching ballistic missiles in the recent years and test-fired an intercontinental ballistic missile into the Pacific Ocean just in 2024. But Trump's instructions to the Pentagon has put Beijing on guard. Chinese Foreign Ministry said that they hope the United States will abide by its commitment to a moratorium on nuclear testing and obligations under a test ban treaty.
中方希望美方切实遵守全面禁止核试验条约的义务和暂停核试验的承诺，以实际行动维护国际核裁军与核不扩散体系，维护全球战略平衡与稳定。
Trump's declaration also comes just days after Russia successfully tested 2 new weapons capable of carrying nuclear warheads. Russian President Vladimir Putin recently unveiled new strategic weapons, including the Poseidon nuclear-powered underwater drone and a cruise missile, both capable of carrying nuclear payloads. He also confirmed that Russia's Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile, dubbed Saturn II, is nearing deployment. Though Russia denied it as a nuclear test, it had set the wheels in motion for Donald Trump's next move.
Президент Трамп в своем заявлении упомянул о том, что другие страны занимаются, дескать, испытанием ядерного оружия. До сих пор нам не было известно, что кто-то занимается испытанием. И если каким-то образом имеется в виду испытание буревестника, это не является ядерным испытанием никоим образом.
So why is the world in a tizzy? Because it raises fears of a possibility of another Cold War. The United Nations reaffirmed its firm opposition to nuclear testing, stating it is unacceptable under any circumstances. Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned of the risks associated with nuclear testing.
The Secretary General has repeatedly asserted that current nuclear risks are already alarmingly high, and all actions that could lead to miscalculation or escalation with catastrophic consequences must be avoided. And as he has said, we must never forget the disastrous legacy of over 2,000 nuclear weapons tests carried out over the last 80 years, and that nuclear testing can never be permitted under any circumstances.
The United States opened the nuclear era in July 1945 with the test of a 20-kiloton atomic bomb, and then dropped 2 atomic bombs on the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945 to force Japan to surrender in World War II. The Soviet Union shocked the West by detonating its first nuclear bomb just 4 years later in August 1949. Between 1945 and 1996, over 2,000 nuclear tests were carried out. But at the end of the Cold War, the world's major nuclear powers declared a voluntary moratorium on nuclear testing. Erstwhile Soviet Union, now Russia, tested its last nuclear weapon in 1990, United States in 1992 and China in 1996. This moratorium was put in place as part of an effort to maintain nuclear stability. Is that about to be completely uprooted? Well, Trump's statement about nuclear testing comes just 100 days before the expiration of the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, the last remaining nuclear arms treaty between the United States and Russia, which limits each country to 1,550 warheads on deployed missiles that are capable of crossing continents.
We have a big arsenal, obviously. The Russians have a large nuclear arsenal. The Chinese have a large nuclear arsenal. Sometimes you've got to test it to make sure that it's functioning and working properly. We've been working very closely, even with nations that we don't have the best relations with, to try to limit nuclear proliferation. The president's going to keep on working on that, but it's an important part of American national security to make sure that this nuclear arsenal we have actually functions properly, and that's part of a testing regime. To be clear, we know that it does work properly, but you got to keep on top of it over time, and the president just wants to make sure that we do that.
So who has the most nuclear weapons? The exact number of warheads is difficult to ascertain, as all countries want to maintain leverage with secrecy. But according to the Federation of American Scientists, Russia is believed to have a total of 5,459 warheads, while the US is a second with 5,177. Those numbers vary depending on who you ask. Washington-based Arms Control Association says the United States has a stockpile of 5,225 nuclear warheads, while Russia has 5,580. China is the third largest nuclear power with about 600 warheads. Now, the timing of Donald Trump's announcement marks the return of nuclear brinkmanship. President Trump often tries to project strength as a negotiation tactic, and this could be just another such tactic. For now, the Trump administration has downplayed global concerns, but it has raised valid fears. Will this usher in a dangerous new phase of nuclear competition? Could this be Cold War 2.0? And if this triggers a chain reaction, where does that leave our new multipolar world?
Been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing.